I'm not sure how to begin this story, but let me start by sharing something quite shocking. My son is now facing the unexpected reality of being told he's going to be a father. And not just any father. His girlfriend's mom is expecting, and she's asking for child support. Let me paint a picture of who I am. A 42-year-old woman with a 19-year-old daughter and an 18-year-old son. When I finished college, my husband, who has since passed away, urged me to stay home while he worked. He was an engineer, making enough to support us comfortably. Tragically, 4 years ago, my husband died, leaving me to raise our teenage daughter and son alone. I hadn't worked since college, so finding a job seemed daunting. But then, a surprise. My late husband had left behind a $3 million life insurance policy and a college fund for our kids, news that came as a relief amidst the grief. You see, my husband's job in the refinery industry was risky, and his life was cut short in a car accident on his way home from a basketball game with his friend Jacob. Jacob survived, but with a life-changing injury. His left leg had to be amputated. Jacob, who had been in a long-term relationship with 2 kids, found himself out of work due to the accident. After my husband's funeral, I fell into a deep depression, contemplating ending my life. It was my children who kept me going. But now, with this unexpected twist involving my son and his girlfriend's mom, it feels like our lives have been turned upside down once again. Despite everything, I couldn't shake off the feeling of sadness. Days would pass without me eating, and I started struggling with an eating disorder. Even 5 months after losing my husband, the depression lingered. I found myself experiencing frightening episodes of psychosis, hearing voices in my head and feeling like I was losing my grip on reality. Seeking help, I began seeing a therapist who encouraged me to find something to occupy my mind. But with no clear direction, I felt lost. Then one day, late 2015, while shopping with my son at the grocery store, I bumped into Jacob, his girlfriend, and their daughter. Seeing them filled me with joy. We had lost touch after my husband's funeral. Jacob, still recovering from his accident, was now reliant on crutches and prosthetics. His girlfriend appeared to be the main provider for their family, and I couldn't help but sense the dynamics of their relationship. My son, smitten with Jacob's daughter, urged me to reconnect with them. It was no surprise. We were close, and he saw the opportunity for us to visit Jacob's family as a chance to bond. 2 days later, I opened up to my therapist about how seeing Jacob at the grocery store stirred up happy memories of my late husband. She encouraged me to reconnect with them, suggesting we start a friendship. Taking her advice, I called Jacob and arranged for my son and me to visit them. Their home was a 50-minute drive from ours, and upon arrival, it was evident they were struggling financially. While my husband was alive, I didn't have much fondness for Jacob. I tolerated him because he was my husband's best friend. I had unfairly judged him, considering him less ambitious than my husband. Upon entering their home, we were greeted by Jacob's oldest daughter, whom my son had somehow connected with before our visit. Together, we went for a walk in the nearby park. As we strolled, my son and Jacob's daughter walked ahead, while Jacob and I followed behind. Amidst our conversation, Jacob shared delightful stories about my late husband that I had never heard before. It was a welcome distraction, and I found myself enjoying the moment, laughing at the memories. My son also seemed to have a good time, showing interest in Jacob's daughter. Before leaving, we promised to meet again. The next day, I overheard my son talking on the phone. It was Jacob's daughter. That's when I realized they were already dating. Later that week, Jacob called me, and our conversations became frequent. The next time I visited him, his girlfriend was at work, and his daughters were in school. We took walks in the park, sharing stories and finding solace in each other's company. These walks became a regular occurrence, providing a sense of healing for me. As our bond deepened, Jacob invited me to his house one day, after our walk, to watch a movie. Sitting together on the couch, he gently wrapped his arm around my shoulder, and I found myself leaning closer to him. It had been a long time since I felt the warmth of another person, and in that moment, it felt comforting. Soon, one thing led to another, and we became intimate. Feeling guilty about the affair, I expressed my concerns to Jacob, who assured me he would leave his girlfriend for me. However, I urged him not to, aware of the consequences. Despite our continued conversations, I began to distance myself, not wanting to cause any harm to their relationship. A month later, my son revealed he was dating Jacob's daughter. While I accepted their relationship, I made sure it didn't interfere with his education. I also reduced my contact with Jacob, not wanting to disrupt his relationship with his girlfriend, who he relied on more than ever. Then, on January 17th, 2016, my son celebrated his birthday, surrounded by plenty of guests. His girlfriend was there as well. Jacob's girlfriend and daughter was there as well. I was a bit surprised that Jacob's girlfriend was there, because she was usually at work at that time. I thought it was very nice of her to take time off of work to come and visit my son at his birthday. Through watching the body language, I realized that Jacob's girlfriend is quite fond of my son. After the party, I had a chance to speak to her and Jacob. I was afraid that she would find out that I slept with Jacob, but I didn't get into that she knew it happened. I was trying to distance myself from them because I didn't want things to get complicated, although I had a feeling that Jacob's girlfriend was trying to be my friend. Around March, I noticed my son was spending a lot of time outside the house. When I asked him, he would say he was spending time with his girlfriend. I warned him about wearing protection and that we didn't want him to be a dad at his young age. 2 days after that conversation with my son, he was out late, and Jacob was texting me, sending me pictures about him and his daughters on a trade fair. Since I thought my son was with his daughter, I noticed that he wasn't on the trade show with them. So I responded to Jacob asking him if my son was with them, and he said no. I texted my son, and he claimed that he was with his girlfriend. I knew he was lying and things didn't add up. I knew Jacob had no reason to lie, so I suspected my son was lying. It wasn't a big deal for him to be out that late, but I was curious about why he was lying about it. That was when I knew something wasn't right. My son continued to act unusual, and I spoke to him about it, but he kept saying that he was spending time with his girlfriend and his friends. I didn't know what to make of it, so I left it alone. About a month later, to my horror, Jacob's girlfriend found out that we were intimate that one time. Jacob called me and told me that he had a fight with his girlfriend because she found out that we were intimate. I was shocked. I couldn't believe it. I questioned him about how his girlfriend discovered our past, but his explanation didn't convince me. It felt like he had orchestrated the situation to bring us together again. When his girlfriend, the main provider, kicked him out, he sought shelter at my place. However, I declined, considering the awkwardness of the situation. Instead, I offered him financial assistance to find a new place. The affair became a source of embarrassment for my family, leading to my son's breakup with his girlfriend. Despite this, his behavior remained unchanged, continuing to stay out late. Hearing him on the phone, I suspected he had reunited with his girlfriend, only to discover pictures of Jacob's girlfriend on his phone, suggesting her interference in his relationship with her daughter. Months later, despite Jacob's advances, I rejected him, wanting to focus on dating once my son left for college. Despite his rejection, I felt sympathy for him, providing financial support out of pity and his connection to my late husband. As an overprotective mother, I often checked my children's phones, leading me to uncover unsettling texts. To my horror, I found out that my son was having an affair with Jacob's ex-girlfriend. Even when he was in a relationship with her daughter, I was horrified by this, and I called Jacob to let him know. When my son came home, I confronted him about it, and he denied it. The following day, I went to see Jacob's ex-girlfriend. She denied it and accused me of being hallowed for sleeping with her ex-boyfriend. We got into a huge fight. When I went back home, I told my son to never go back there again. It was easy for him since he denied the affair ever took place. I wanted to call the police because a woman almost my age, sleeping with someone my son's age, is against the law. I thought she would be arrested by the nature of the text messages alone, but I wasn't sure. Before trying to contact the police, I spoke to Jacob about it, and he was in support of it, but then he asked me if I want to put my son through that. I got cold feet because my children and I have been through it a lot during the past few years, so I dropped it. A few months later, Jacob's ex-girlfriend got pregnant. I was told by Jacob that his ex-girlfriend was pregnant, and he said it wasn't his. It was kind of surprising because a woman her age, close to early 40s, with a 16-year-old and a 14-year-old daughter at the time, would get pregnant. Seems like it wasn't planned. I thought maybe she was dating someone and had forgotten to use a birth control pill since Jacob was no longer living with her. Fast forward today, February 2017. My son turned 18 last month, and Jacob's girlfriend filed the paperwork claiming that my son is the father of her baby and that she needed some financial assistance. I was so surprised. Does she have no shame? I knew she was after our money. She groomed my son to get her pregnant for money. I presented my case to the police, and they were able to charge her with sexual misconduct with a minor. According to my lawyer, he said that the worst that she would get is a probation, and he doubts she would do time. Deep inside, I felt like this whole thing was my fault, and I allowed a predator close to my family. I severed contact with Jacob, and I will be fighting the child support case with everything I've got. I can't believe that I'm going through this. What can I do? What should I do? How do I handle this?